It's been about a minute, so I think it's time we dive into the topic. Let's get into it. I believe it was last week I posted, I don't remember if it was a reel or a post about the shitty art I had made and how I had enjoyed doing it. I had calmed down, I had grounded myself, I was in a better space mentally, and that we should all do more art just because we have fun and enjoy it, without worrying about the final outcome. And I posted it. And I got some comments and some messages that, like, oh, it's not shitty, or you shouldn't talk about your art. I'm paraphrasing here. It won't attract people. You shouldn't call your art shitty. It won't attract, people to you. And I've sat with it. And now that I've had time to integrate what it brought up for me, and I will share that with you, I would like to address it because a part of my mission is to, bring people past perfectionism freeze into creative freedom. And for me, that looked like doing a lot of work around self-value, self-worth, and perfectionism. And there was a time for a very long time in my life that I didn't create, because when I would create, the very first thing wouldn't come out how I had in my mind. And I would dissolve into tears and frustration and put it away and think I wasn't meant to be an artist. I'm crazy for wanting to create. I can't do it perfectly, so why do it at all? Sneaky little voice perfectionism has. But as I've talked to other artists and other creatives, it's a pretty widespread voice. And it's time we talk back. So let's get into it. I did the work, a lot of work around creating and, investing in money if I wasn't going to be selling the finished product, a lot of healing in my recovery. You all know I'm 4.5 years sober. And I have finally gotten to a place where I know I am worth spending money on art supplies, if creating only for myself, only for the joy it brings me, only for the well-being I get when I'm creating. I say often, I pray with paint. It's how I learned to meditate when I first got sober, and meditating in a mind that was chaotic and overthinking constantly. Painting was how I learned to connect with my body, come back to myself, and get clear in my mind. And that has a lot of value, if only for the fact it keeps me alive and it keeps me vibrant, it keeps me mentally well, and it helps me to heal. I mean, that's priceless, if you ask me. And if you're here watching this, it's like you asked me, right? So in doing so and in creating abundantly for 4 years, before I reached creative freedom, what I call creative freedom, I had transitioned from perfectionism to creating abundantly. And that required the ability to just create. And there has to be a stopping point, or when you're in the first, parts of coming out of perfectionism, there has to be a stopping point. And so the stopping point was good enough. Get it done, good enough. Get some paint on the paper. I started a 100 works on paper project that allowed me to show up consistently for myself. Sorry about that. I don't know if that blacked out. It did on my screen. And in doing so, in creating abundantly, what I did for myself was build some self-trust. And in that self-trust, it allows me to quiet the perfectionism voice, because I can now know that, yes, I can make shitty art, and it's not all I can make. that if I keep going and I keep creating, eventually I have breakthroughs and I have aha moments and I have the joy and the thrill of it working, coming out exactly how I had in my mind, or better. And you can't get to that until you get past the shitty art. And if you're constantly telling yourself that making shitty art means you shouldn't be making, then you're never going to get to the freedom you can feel by just creating, and by the joy and the thrill that comes when you are creating that abundantly for the times that it works out so wonderfully. Alternately, it wouldn't feel so joyful and there wouldn't be a thrill when it works out if you hadn't made shitty art. Think about it. If every single time you sat down to make a painting, you were amazed by it, how long till you weren't amazed by it anymore? For me, I know it would be pretty quickly. So in being able to call my art shitty, it is a leveling up for me. I can say I make shitty art. I do. And what I mean by shitty art is art, one, very often it's when I sit down and I don't have a finished product in mind. I'm just sitting down because I want to paint for some reason or another, whether it's I just want joy, some joy in my day, some color to play, or if it is because I'm stressed or worried or need to bring myself back to the moment. For whatever the reason, it's not because, oh, I'm going to make a finished painting. I'm going to sit down and do a portrait. And often it's when I'm exploring ideas and experimenting. And so I have no control. And through making shitty art is how we learn. We explore, we experiment. I try new mediums. And then I get ideas. I have lines that I can follow through to the next project. It sparks new creative ideas. It allows me to learn about new mediums. So shitty art is important. And I will call it shitty art because I've earned that right by showing up for myself and creating daily. Do I make shitty art daily? No. Do I make excellent art daily, or art that I like daily? No, also no. But I make art daily. So I've earned the right to label my art however I want. And if that sounds a bit harsh, that's not how I meant it. And this is the first part. The second part being I didn't respond to those comments other than thank you for sharing with that, what this reel brought up for you, what this post brought up for you. Because my community is a safe place. You can meet me where you're at, and I'm not going to judge you because odds are I've been there. I've been there. I saw people defending it and saying, you won't attract people. And there's that fear. There's such an underlying fear. And I don't know where that it comes from, that people won't make you like you unless you're, making good art. Or maybe it's that you don't deserve to be making art if it's not good art, quote unquote. Everybody in this world, I believe, should be making art. And if it's not making art, you should do something that has a similar effect on your soul and your spirit. For me, it's art. And I want to address it now. I didn't address it because I also, in my recovery, have done a lot of work around the need to explain myself or over-explain myself, and where that comes from, the need for approval, the need for validation, the need to fit in. I'm done with all that. I'm done. I don't need to fit in. I belong to me. I know what I meant. I said what I said, period, the end. If you had a different reaction to it, that's because you're coming from a different place. And I'm also not going to judge that. And I'm not going to take it as you judging me, because I know it's a reflection of you. And if you are judging me, I'm okay with that too. Maybe I'm not your person. Maybe you don't want to be around someone that calls any of their work shitty. If that's so, thanks for stopping by. Have a great rest of the day. That's fine. I'm not your person. You're not my people. I'm okay with that. And I also don't want to turn my comment section into an argument stage, a stage for an argument. I'm open to big conversations. Sometimes I just don't have the energy. This all happened. I recently filed for my LLC, and I am making the shift into being a working artist. And that was exhausting, and I was doing a lot of integrating that with my nervous system because this is going to be a lifetime thing that I am building. And it's important to me and my recovery, so me, that I do it in a way that is sustainable for life. And so I was exhausted and doing a lot of nervous system integration for myself and a lot of self care. A lot. Like they say, Queen, I don't know how you say it, Herbie says self-care, it's a full-time job, baby. And I've lived by that quote for the last 4.5 years. And it's been like I was working overtime at that full-time job, which is my second full-time job on top of now building a business and finding time to create. And so I just didn't have the mental capacity, even if I wanted to address it in comments at the time. Now I'm addressing it because it's important to me and to my mission to ensure that we talk about the reasons why, as a culture, there are these stories that say you don't deserve to be spending money on art supplies if you're not making good art. You don't deserve to call yourself an artist if you quote unquote put your art down. I critique my art very honestly, and I can do that calmly and clear-headed. When I say something is shitty, it's because either one, I say it in jest because it wasn't what I planned on making and I didn't like it. And that's okay. I have that right. But also, I critique myself very objectively. And so I can look at my art as I look at anyone else's, and I can critique it based on art things like value. Is it all the same value? Things like composition. There's an education behind what I'm saying. A lot of it's self-education. But I'm at a loss for words at the moment. I maybe would have been better off writing a script, and I thought about it, but that's not the way I want to approach this part of my business as I lean more into preparing for a podcast and talking more, showing up more. I don't want to be scripted. I don't want to be polished. This is what you see behind me. I mean, maybe I would like something a little better of a background, but this is it. This is the room where I create. There's my art that I submitted to my jury show that I had professionally framed with museum glass on a little scrap of paper. Not shitty art. There were also some in that series that were shitty art that I then threw away. And I'm okay with that. So I guess I wanted to come live today and just get the conversation started in a positive, maybe not even a positive way, just in a neutral way, in a safe way. Let's talk about it. What triggers for you, if any, when when you hear someone call their art shitty? Do you call your art shitty? Do you think that the only way you can justify the cost you spend on art supplies is to make good art all the time? That sounds exhausting. But if that's where you're at, that's where you're at, because I was there. I felt bad if I spent money on art supplies. And so I stopped creating, and how sad, how absolutely sad. So yeah, I said what I said. I make shitty art because I make art daily. And we should all do a little more of what we want to do because we enjoy doing it, not for any other reason. And even if you are a working artist, which I am now joining the ranks of, I want to be able to say, I made shitty art today, but you know what? I had fun. Period, the end. I don't ever want to be at a place again where I'm feeling bad or making myself feel bad or treating myself unkindly because I made art that I didn't consider good. I made art. That's a win. You made art. That's a win. And if you haven't, go make some art. Go make it right now. And I'll see you next time. Bye. I don't know how to shut this off. Oh, there it is. End. Bye. Now go make art.